Tonight, police patrolling cemeteries across Melbourne after a gruesome graveyard robbery. Human remains stolen. Surgeons and doctors plead for a rethink on elective surgery to help Victorians in a painful limbo. The Reserve Bank concedes that home buyers could be hit with a rate rise this year. Music legend Glenn Wheatley dies with COVID complications. Tributes from some of our biggest stars. And later, back to school help for families. Laptops, uniforms, shoes, everything children need to learn free.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Peter Mitchell starts now.
Good evening. Police are investigating satanic links to the theft of human remains from a graveyard in Footscray. Detectives have now revealed that 2 human heads were stolen and that the thief left a chilling letter.
A depraved graveyard crime that's left mourners horrified.
It's a sick, sick world, really.
Detectives stunned.
It is very distressing for the families.
And criminal experts baffled.
Grave robbing used to be when bodies were being, taken and provided for anatomical reasons, but we're talking, hundreds of years ago.
2 human heads stolen from 2 separate mausoleums at Footscray Cemetery.
Probably one of the lowest thefts you could ever imagine.
Police suspect the first graveyard theft happened last Thursday before the culprit struck again yesterday.
The human remains were the primary focus of the offender, and that's what we'll be focusing on.
Tools were used to break into the graves, but what was left behind has shocked detectives even more. A crucifix, candles and letters to Satan, now evidence in what could be a satanic-motivated crime.
When people have thought that somebody has been possessed by the devil, I've seen that in the UK. I've never seen any satanic cult activity in Australia. It's interesting that apparently some of the symbols that have been left around these mausoleums appear to be satanic in nature.
A third gravesite was broken into late last week, but no human remains were taken because it was empty. Detectives believe the victims are being selected at random with no obvious link between the 3.
Speaking to the families, there was personal effects, but nothing of value.
4 security cameras have been installed at the entry points to the cemetery.
I was a bit shocked and horrified. Normally when we have these issues at the cemeteries, it's normally just desecration or copper or brass theft, so this was quite alarming.
Families now facing a second wave of grief.
I just thought it was horrible. Why would people do that?
They expect their loved ones to be put to rest at peace.
Mitch, police will be stepping up their patrols not just here in Footscray but at cemeteries across Melbourne to reassure the community. At this stage, it's still not known if the thief is acting alone or in a possible cult, but once caught, they are facing serious charges and likely jail time. Mitch.
Cassie Zervos at Footscray, thank you. Leading surgeons and doctors are pushing for a rapid rethink on Victoria's elective surgery ban as COVID hospital case numbers fall below 800. The restrictions have left operating theatres empty and thousands of Victorians in limbo. But there are signs that some non-urgent operations may be cleared to resume soon.
Lynn O'Connell has had knee reconstruction surgery cancelled 3 times.
I am struggling now to walk, and as I was saying before, I have had a couple of falls.
Her frustration, like many Victorian patients, is growing.
It's deteriorated and actually the knee has shifted a bit.
4 weeks after a ban on non-urgent surgery, there's still no announcement on a resumption.
We think it is possible to resume some services in a staggered way, and we'll make further announcements about that soon.
Private practices anticipate up to 50% of procedures will be allowed from mid-next week. Many surgeons say blanket rules aren't the answer because day practices and smaller hospitals can manage their caseloads.
Very few of which are involved in the COVID response, and all of them have had all of this unused capacity that hasn't been utilised for months and months on end now.
The Premier said the decision to cut back operations wasn't made lightly.
Well, orthopaedic surgeons like to do surgery. That's what, they do not want to have surgery cancelled.
This isn't about surgeons at all. This is about patients who are suffering. There's empty wards, there's empty operating rooms, And there's staff, nursing staff, that are not being utilised or redeployed.
COVID hospital figures are falling steadily. 768 Victorians are in hospital with COVID, down from 83 yesterday and the fewest since January 9. But case numbers have spiked. More than 14,000 new infections recorded in the past 24 hours. 25 more Victorians have died with COVID. The death toll this year now 529. The nursing union is calling for caution, saying the workforce in major public hospitals is exhausted.
We've got wards that are working with less than half their normal staff.
Our health system in Victoria is falling apart.
Emma O'Sullivan joins us now. And Emma, a month-long backlog of PCR results is finally being cleared.
Mitch, testing centres were so overwhelmed over Christmas and New Year's that around 100,000 Victorians were told they would never receive their results. That changed today with Melbourne Pathology texting patients. So official confirmation for the first time for many that they did indeed have COVID-19 1 month ago. Thankfully, the backlog has now been cleared and around 90% of PCR results are now returned within 48 hours. Mitch?
Emma O'Sullivan at North Melbourne, thank you. The Governor of Australia's Reserve Bank has conceded people with home loans could be hit with an interest rate hike later this year. Philip Lowe says while the worst of Omicron is behind us, the bank won't rush any decision.
In his first address to the National Press Club this year, the Reserve Bank Governor set an optimistic tone.
The worst of the disruptive effects from Omicron now appear to be behind us.
Forecasting the economy to grow by 4.25% this year, with unemployment expected to fall to 3.75%.
Australia has not experienced unemployment rates this low for half a century.
But despite a surprise rise in inflation driven by global supply chain problems, he's in no rush to hike interest rates, leaving the official cash rate at a record low 0.1%. Waiting for a lift in wages before moving.
The board of the Reserve Bank is prepared to be patient.
But conceding a rise is likely to come sooner than his previous predictions of late next year.
Wages are about to start accelerating, and that will give them the trigger they need to start the hiking cycle.
Economists forecasting at least 3 rate hikes this year, the first in August or September.
It's certainly a plausible scenario.
If it does happen, it'll be the first time since November 2010 rates have gone up.
We're taking the cash rate to 0.75%.
Whether it's this year or next year, interest rates will inevitably rise, and the Governor says mortgage holders need to be ready when they do.
The advice that I would give to people is make sure you have buffers.
Rob Scott, 7 News.
To breaking news now, and more than 300 Victorian schools are still dealing with Omicron outbreaks tonight. Chanel Vella has the details, and Chanel, so far, none of these schools have been forced to close.
Mitch, we are 3 days into term 1 and 380 schools across the state now have confirmed COVID cases. We can reveal 682 students have tested positive and are in isolation, as well as 63 teachers. The state government says it was expecting this and the number is under control, reassuring parents the COVID-safe plan is working. Mitch.
Chanel Vella, thank you. Scott Morrison is scrambling to dodge the fallout of damaging text messages, branding him a psycho and a horrible person. The PM denies that a minister in his inner circle leaked the toxic exchange.
Eager to demonstrate he's still at the controls,
I'll give you a big smile.
perhaps masking his real feelings with controversy swirling about text messages supposedly showing former New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian calling him a horrible person she can't trust, and an unnamed minister calling him a psycho.
Did that hurt?
Oh, no one cares if the Prime Minister's feelings hurt, and I understand that. It doesn't matter.
Ms Berejiklian claims no recollection of the exchange at the height of the Black Summer bushfires 2 years ago, but hasn't denied it. New South Wales Treasurer Matt Keane says the mystery minister isn't him.
It's just outrageous, and I'm here denying it.
As Deputy Prime Minister Barnaby Joyce says whoever it is, they will be found.
2 bottles of red wine,
And some journalist's going to say, you know who told me that, blah, blah, blah. And she's out.
Later saying he didn't mean to imply it was a woman, as Cabinet's most senior woman, Foreign Minister Marise Payne, issues a strong denial. I can say categorically that these claims have nothing to do with me, questioning the authenticity of the messages revealed by Channel 10, if indeed they are genuine. What is genuine? This controversy has robbed Scott Morrison of 2 crucial days he'd planned to spend establishing a course to the election, instead defending himself and government unity. Mark Riley, 7 News.
An SAS trooper has testified he saw Victoria Cross recipient Ben Roberts-Smith tell another soldier to shoot an Afghan prisoner. The explosive evidence came as the war veterans' defamation case resumed in the federal court.
Delayed 6 months by lockdowns and legals.
Mr Roberts-Smith, are you ready for round 2?
Australia's highest decorated soldier, Ben Roberts-Smith, was back in court to face his toughest moment, his own Special Forces comrades testifying against him. Today, a serving SAS soldier, codenamed Person 41, told of the raid on this compound, Whiskey 108. Easter Sunday 2009, they'd discovered bomb-making equipment, ammunition and opium. Person 41 says Roberts-Smith and another soldier had an Afghan prisoner. They asked to borrow one of these, his suppressor or silencer for an M4 assault rifle. Then I thought to myself, I think I know what's about to happen here. He claims Roberts-Smith then grabbed the prisoner and kicked him to his knees. He pointed to the other soldier and said, shoot him. Person 41 didn't want to watch, so he left the room. Then I heard a single suppressed shot, which I knew was from an M4 rifle. When he went back in, the Afghan was dead. He'd been shot once in the head, quite a bit of blood flowing from his head wound. Then the evidence turned to the prisoner with the prosthetic leg, later souvenired as a drinking vessel. Person 41 claimed he saw the Victoria Cross recipient shoot him dead, point blank, before saying, "Are we all cool? We good?" I just replied, "Yeah, mate, no worries. I was towing the line. It's the unwritten rule."
Today's allegations have been levelled before at Ben Roberts-Smith in court last year, and he's strenuously denied them all, saying any killings only ever happened in the heat of battle.
15 witnesses will be called, among them the 43-year-old's ex-wife, Emma.
Are you still confident about the trial?
Absolutely.
But several key SAS personnel may miss out, still stuck behind WA's lockdown borders. Chris Reason, 7 News.
Overseas, Vladimir Putin has accused the United States of driving his country into war. The Russian president's first public comments in 6 weeks ignored the fact he's stationed 100,000 troops off Ukraine.
America has repeatedly called on Vladimir Putin to come to the table. Today he did so happily with his friend, the Hungarian Prime Minister, before launching his latest assault on the Western military alliance, NATO.
NATO promised it would not advance military infrastructure. They said one thing and did another.
Accusing the US of ignoring his concerns, but Putin did offer to continue dialogue over Ukraine. "I hope we find a solution," he says, "but I don't know what it'll be." These two men also spent the day trying to figure it out. The British PM meeting with Ukraine's president, a show of solidarity, and to Putin, a warning.
A further Russian invasion of Ukraine would be a political disaster, a humanitarian disaster.
Just days ago, the Ukrainian president criticised the West for causing panic about the build-up of Russian troops on his border. Today, he was singing from Washington's songbook.
This won't just be a war between Ukraine and Russia, this will be a full-scale war in Europe.
British soldiers are training in neighbouring Poland. Fighter jets practising over Estonia. Boris Johnson isn't the only one in Kiev this week, with the leaders of Poland, Turkey and the Netherlands also here. A flurry of diplomatic activity as the West seeks to provide a united front and deter a Russian invasion. In Kiev, Ukraine, Sarah Greenodge, 7 News.
Back home, John Farnham has led the tributes to music legend Glenn Wheatley, who has died with COVID complications. The 74-year-old was credited with shaking up the Australian music industry.
The death of Glenn Wheatley has broken the man known as The Voice. John Farnham's wife Jill telling 7 News her husband is deep in grief. Is he okay though?
No, he's devastated.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Last night, John Farnham had the dreaded task of informing friends their mate had died.
He wasn't a great bass player, I've got to say, but he was a great manager and a great friend.
For 4 years, he played bass in the Masters Apprentices. Bandmates saying Glenn Wheatley conquered the world. He recognised that the band should be getting much higher fees for drawing huge crowds and fought for a fairer share of concert revenue. His career shift into management steered the Little River Band towards major success. Reviving the career of John Farnham seen as his greatest triumph. The album Whispering Jack became Australia's biggest seller. He helped shape the careers of Delta Goodrem, Kate Sobrano, Australian Crawl and Pseudo Echo.
Glenn did amazing things for Pseudo Echo. He opened many doors for us.
Former Governor-General Sir Peter Cosgrove became a good friend after the Tour of Duty concert in Dili in 1999. He also provided a reference for Wheatley during his trial for tax evasion.
He was a great husband, a great father, grandfather. I just say that he was a fine Australian. I'm quite proud of the fact that he was my friend.
Given he spent time in jail, there won't be an offer of a state funeral. Glenn Wheatley's legacy is strong in radio. 42 years ago, he co-founded Australia's first commercial FM station, Eon FM, from a studio in South Melbourne, which has since grown into the national Triple M network. His wife Gaynor and 3 children were with him at the end. The man who brought major innovation in the music industry, now at rest.
Bigger crowd than the Beatles, and we got paid $200. I'm thinking, there's something wrong with this equation.
Cameron Bowe, 7 News.
Valet Glenn Wheatley. The Demons have plans for a dynasty. Tim Watson, they're not shying away from lofty heights.
Not at all, Mitch. They want to emulate the great Melbourne teams of the past. We'll have the details shortly. Also, we'll explain the mid-air emergency that caught the Cats off guard at Cardinia Park. A heartwarming return for a much-loved Roo at Arden Street. The Socceroos are on the brink of World Cup qualification disaster. And Mitch, we've got goats galore coming up tonight. Lauren Jackson, Tom Brady and Kelly Slater's The Incredible Ride. I'll see you again soon.
Looking forward to that. Thank you very much, Tim. Victoria could be manufacturing its own rapid antigen tests within weeks from a factory in Melbourne's eastern suburbs. The details are next. Also, a suspicious car fire spreads to a home in Templestowe Lower. Tesla forced to backtrack on Toyota toppling sales numbers. History making Australians just hours away from hitting the ice at the Winter Olympics. The Andrews government has signed a deal to rat-proof Victoria, promising to produce 50 million rapid tests a year. Manufacturing could begin in Melbourne within weeks, provided the TGA gives the tick of approval.
They've been near impossible to find in pharmacies, but soon they'll be locally made in Box Hill.
People talk about Boston, they talk about London and they talk about Melbourne in terms of the 3 great biotech, medtech, science-driven cities of the world.
Lumos Diagnostics already makes rapid tests for the Canadian and European markets. Their aim is to make 1 million per month by April, 3 million by July, eventually scaling up to 50 million a year.
The companies have been working very closely with our health department to make sure that these are of a very, very high quality in terms of accuracy.
And the cost to Victorian taxpayers?
This is not a cost, it's an investment, and it is absolute value in jobs, in safety.
The locally made rapid tests still need TGA approval, but manufacturing has already begun. Once given the green light, they'll be ready for delivery.
We've got some positive assets to use at our disposal straight from the start, so we're not starting from scratch.
Woolworths has confirmed its rapid supply pain has eased. We currently have 3 times as much stock as during the recent peak in demand, and will double that volume again by next week. But experts have concerns on the effectiveness of using rapid tests on asymptomatic people.
Rapid antigen testing doesn't work quite so well, firstly in asymptomatic people anyway, but in lower prevalence environments.
Chanel Vella, 7 News.
A suspicious car fire has spread to a home in Templestowe Lower overnight. The vehicle was in the carport when it went up in flames around 3 o'clock this morning. The fire extended to the house, causing significant damage. Thankfully, the occupants of the house were not injured. Tesla has backtracked on its claim to have overtaken the Toyota Camry as Australia's best-selling mid-sized sedan. The electric car manufacturer has now admitted it overestimated sales by 3,000, blaming human error. The Camry, with over 13,000 sales in 2021, remains in the top spot for the 29th year running. We are now just hours away from competition at the Winter Olympic Games, with an Australian team taking centre stage. Jackie Felgate is in Beijing this evening, and Jackie, we're about to witness history.
Oh, we are indeed, Mitch. Our first ever Aussie Olympic curling team is about to hit the ice. Curling is one of the oldest team sports in history. It dates to the 16th century. Obviously not as big in an Australian summer, but as David Woywood reports, two young athletes are hoping to change all that.
Swept away at first glimpse of this coliseum of curling.
Oh my goodness, this is unreal.
Tali Gill and Dean Hewitt, Australia's king and queen in a sport known as chess on ice.
Coming out here, I'm just so inspired and determined.
Today, their first and only taste of conditions inside Beijing's converted ice cube. Our first ever curling team with just hours to fine-tune ahead of their global debut. That'll see the pair send granite stones down a sheet of ice as the curler sweeps to affect direction and speed. It's not a smooth slide, pebbled bumps adding to the complexity. The aim to get the rock inside what's known as the house.
That's what we do for a living.
Pretty much.
Travel the world to throw rocks at other people's houses.
The pre-game jitters also very real at the Hewitts' home in Melbourne.
The knees, the legs, the wheels shaking. So it'll be pretty tough.
I am really nervous, and you should see me when the game gets started.
And that's how Tali and Dean hope the rest of Australia feel when they officially step out on the ice here later tonight. Highly rated after blitzing their Olympic qualifying rounds. Regardless of what happens tonight, the pair are just happy to have put curling on the Australian sporting map. In Beijing, David Woywood, 7 News.
So a real sense of anticipation here tonight, and tomorrow another major moment, Mitch. That'll be the announcement of our two Aussie flag bearers.
Jackie Felgate in Beijing, thank you very much. We're looking forward to it. The heat came to an end with a cold wind blowing across Melbourne. Jane Bunn joins us now. Jane, it brought a much-needed good night's sleep, I can tell you.
Oh, indeed, Mitchell. We are feeling refreshed as the humidity has been knocked out of the air. The temperature dropped just below 15 overnight, our coldest night in 2 weeks. Today, it didn't quite reach 20, our coldest day in 3 weeks. Tonight, it'll fall even lower. It is already just 16 out there now, and we're heading for a low of 13, but it'll warm up again soon. I'll show you when after sport, Mitch.
Thanks, Jane. See you then. Bayside parents are staging a protest tonight. Jodie Lee is there with them.
Mitch, they're taking their fight straight to council's doorstep to save childcare centres. I'll have the latest live next.
Also ahead, Melbourne hit by a cut flower shortage for Valentine's Day. Watch how wild winds forced a passenger jet to abort its landing. And comedian Whoopi Goldberg caught in a storm and fighting for her career. Dozens of families are rallying outside St Kilda Town Hall tonight in an effort to save 3 local childcare centres from closure. Jodie Lee is live from Carlisle Street, and Jodie, the move could leave families struggling to find childcare in the area.
Well, Mitch, these families are desperate to stop Port Phillip Council from selling off 3 buildings in St Kilda, Elwood and Balaclava that each house a childcare centre. Council says the buildings are too old and would be too expensive to renovate, but the move would leave more than 120 children without childcare.
I hope that they stop this process and engage with us in a constructive manner and actually look at solutions that mean that we will survive as centres, continue to thrive and continue to offer our services to the community.
Tonight, these families were picnicking here in protest, and they have caught the attention of both state and federal politicians who could theoretically step in and save these childcare centres with an injection of cash now that we are in an election year. Mitch?
Jodie Lee at St Kilda, thank you. The hunt continues for an arsonist suspected of lighting 4 fires near a former Army explosives factory at Maribyrnong. The first blaze was on New Year's Day, destroying buildings and threatening nearby homes. Residents in the area were ordered to get out of their properties. 3 more fires were also lit near the facility. American comedian Whoopi Goldberg has been suspended from her talk show after explosive comments about the Holocaust. She told viewers the extermination of Jewish people wasn't about race and has now been taken off air.
An actor across 4 decades, she's won Emmys, Grammys, Oscars and Tonys. Today, it was as though the world gave Whoopi Goldberg a clangor award for this.
The Holocaust isn't about race.
Her TV chat show discussing a Tennessee school district's ban on this Pulitzer-winning work. It's based on recollections of Nazi Germany exterminating 6 million European Jews. The Holocaust.
It's not about race.
What is it about?
Because it's about man's inhumanity to man.
Inhumanity, certainly, but separating the Third Reich from racism unleashed a flood of critics.
Nazi Germany, Hitler persecuted, annihilated the Jews because they saw us as an inferior, dangerous race.
The comedian's first response to say she'd been misunderstood.
You can't call this racism. This was evil. This wasn't based on the skin. You couldn't tell who was Jewish.
Then an unqualified apology to the Jewish people on social media and on air.
I regret my comments, as I said, and I stand corrected.
And punished her TV network, suspending Whoopi Goldberg for 2 weeks for her wrong and hurtful comments. Time, it says, for the star to reflect and learn about the impact of what she said. In the United States, Tim Lester, 7 News.
In the past few hours, Tonga has gone into lockdown, the country no longer COVID-free after 2 port workers tested positive. The stay-at-home orders will be in force for at least 2 days, but could be extended after a review. And a British Airways pilot has been forced to abort a landing at the last minute at London's Heathrow Airport as strong winds pushed it off course.
Easy. Oh my God!
The plane's tail skimmed the runway before the pilot hit full throttle to head back into the air and try again. A second man has been arrested over the fire at the front doors of Old Parliament House. 40-year-old Victorian man Ryan Harder was granted bail in court, charged with arson, obstructing a public official and assault. He's the 4th person charged over the violent protests that caused more than $4 million damage. A global flower shortage is threatening to dampen Valentine's Day celebrations. Florists are struggling to source red roses, and the best advice is to get in early.
Florists are full of beautiful, bright bouquets, but a shortage of the red rose variety is threatening a popular Valentine's Day gift.
We will have roses, there are roses out there, but we may not have the volume of red that we've seen in history.
Local growers have been forced to destroy crops because of recent wild weather. Roses from places like Ecuador and Colombia are stuck in transit because of COVID.
In some cases, it's been in the airport for about 4 days, and so they are not in the best condition sometimes.
And wholesalers say the import cost is higher than ever before.
Those prices have gone up probably for Valentine's Day period about 3 times the normal price that it was pre-COVID.
It's not just a local problem, but a global issue.
forcing some florists in Queensland to close ahead of Valentine's Day, the busiest time of year.
We've just decided that it's probably not viable for our business.
The advice for Valentine's Day is to order early, but with limited red roses available, the best option is to organise a personalised bouquet with your Valentine's favourite flowers.
What does your house usually have in it? Does it have sunflowers? Does it have natives? Does it have hydrangea? And let's curate based on that.
Tegan Dolling, 7 News.
Work has begun on Melbourne's largest construction project since the start of the pandemic. Seafarers will be an 18-level hotel and apartment complex along the Yarra River's North Bank precinct.
By 2050, two-thirds of the world are going to live in cities, but here in Melbourne in that time frame we will almost double our residential population on current forecasts, and this is another option for people to be able to live in Melbourne.
More than half the apartments have already been sold. Ahead tonight, help for families battling school costs. It's all free, everything children need to learn, from laptops to uniforms and shoes.
We really want to get the message out to Victorian families that we can help make a difference.
Also coming up, the high-profile anti-vax campaigner heading to court. And a curious parrot gives tourists an unexpected bird's-eye view. Anti-vax campaigner Monica Smith is set to stand trial, accused of encouraging people to attend lockdown protests in August last year. The founder of Reignite Democracy Australia has pleaded not guilty to inciting the illegal rallies. Monica Smith will remain on bail ahead of her trial. The share market has headed higher today. The ASX 200 closed up 81 points. It was a good day for energy and mining stocks. BHP Billiton rose 1.5%. Woodside had one of its best days in 12 months as oil prices jumped. $1 Australian is currently buying 71.37 US cents. Thieves have stolen $30,000 worth of power tools from a Kew construction site. The two men targeted the Grange Road property where a home is being built on January the 18th. Families will spend $2.5 billion on school supplies this year. Many struggle to afford the basics, but there is a helping hand available.
It's a treasure trove of back-to-school essentials, everything students need to learn.
We can provide everything, you name it, we've got it here.
And it's all free of charge. There are laptops and uniforms.
So Sonia, you can see here, beautiful school dresses, ready to go.
Even underwear and shoes.
Also things like desks and chairs.
Covering all Victorian state schools.
These are all the different tracksuits and all the different colours.
And kids wear through these so quickly.
They do, they absolutely do.
Last year, the State Schools Relief Scheme helped 72,000 families.
It's a huge amount, and this year we're on track to do even more than that.
Parents simply contact their school's principal or welfare coordinator who order anything they need.
Every area, it's every school right throughout Victoria.
Comparison website Finder has data showing Aussie parents will spend $2.5 billion on school supplies this year. That's an average of $570 per primary school child and $780 for secondary, which doesn't include tech products.
More and more parents are having to shell out for technology for their kids to be able to attend school.
Like so many charities during the pandemic, State Schools Relief was forced to pivot quickly, shifting its focus from items required in the classroom to those now needed for homeschooling, as students headed online for their learning.
We've done over 4,000 laptops to date. We also did internet USBs because there were many families with multiple siblings who just couldn't access the curriculum.
The organisation is funded by state government and private donations.
Please don't be embarrassed, just go and ask for help. We are here to provide it. We've got plenty of stock and we want it to go out to families who need it.
Sonia Marinelli, 7 News.
Winery day trips can be a risky business, but a new campaign is helping wine lovers keep track of their alcohol consumption. The DrinkWise program involves using scratchies to keep a tally of how many tastings you've had before it equates to a standard drink. They're being rolled out at nearly 2,000 cellar doors and tourism venues around the country. And tourists have watched a bird snatch their GoPro, giving them a bird's eye view of New Zealand's South Island. It captured the scenery and even took a bit of a selfie. The eagle-eyed owners followed the bird, a large parrot called a Kia, and eventually got their camera back. Very spectacular. Sports next with Tim Watson. And Tim, the WA Premier has made a rather cheeky claim.
Yes, he has, Mitch. He says he's the man who saved the AFL. We'll hear from him next. Also, Ben Cunnington makes a surprise return to Arden Street after chemotherapy. The Demons unveil their plans for a dynasty, while there's injury dramas at Geelong as two cats go under the knife. How cannabis helped basketball legend Lauren Jackson get back on the court. And Kelly Slater winds back the clock with an incredible ride in Hawaii. Welcome back. The AFL is exploring major contingency plans for a COVID-impacted season. Chief Football Reporter Tom Brown has the details. And Tom, players could run out for multiple clubs.
Tim, it's possible. The AFL's still working out whether they'll need top-up players, but there is some concern in clubland, and it's a discussion point, in particular how top-up players would look, in particular the rules around that possibility. One idea is a pool of eligible call-ups similar to what the Big Bash did. A top-up player on, say, a 10-day contract, in theory, could play for multiple clubs across the one season. That's one issue for the AFL to ponder. At the moment, though, they haven't got an official position on whether they'll need these players. There's still some optimism on the AFL's part that clubs will have enough players on their list to withstand the COVID issues. The AFL, meantime, did receive a potential fixture boost today. The hardline WA Premier, with borders firmly shut in Western Australia, was asked if he'd let clubs fly in and out across the border.
We've worked on this for the last 2 years. We've made it work each year in a very, very safe way. And you might recall Western Australia saved the AFL season last year. We saved the AFL. Great grand final, held with a full crowd, in a very safe environment, very safe.
Save the season. And heartwarming scenes at North Melbourne this afternoon. Champion midfielder Ben Cunnington has completed chemotherapy for recurrence of his testicular cancer. Cunnington came down to say hello, putting on the boots. The longest time he spent back at the club so far. He's got a long way to go. On Monday, he could only visit for a short time, but there was already improvement today, and the club's optimistic on his long-term recovery. Just regarding Jed Anderson tonight, he has indicated to North he will get the Novavax before the deadline. It's still got a bit to play out, Tim.
Thanks, Tom. Melbourne has unveiled plans to create a Demons dynasty and join the best teams of the modern era. The club isn't shying away from lofty expectations as they strive for greatness.
They might be selling candy to their Norm Smith medalists, but there's no questioning the reigning Premier's hunger.
The language that we're using, there's a desire to be a great Melbourne team, and that's something we've got front of mind, is to be the next greatest Melbourne team.
Enduring a tougher pre-season under its new fitness boss, Melbourne looking to join Brisbane, Geelong, Hawthorn and Richmond as the next dynasty team of the modern era.
One thing they all did is they respected the game and how hard it is each year.
All eyes on safety practice for staff installing new lights in Geelong. The Cats out to avoid a free fall with a mounting injury toll that now includes forward spark Ryan Myers after syndesmosis ankle surgery, Sam Menegola with a knee concern and Jack Henry's foot setback, plus recruit John Segler after a recent knee clean-out, opening the door for Reece Stanley to take first honours in his latest ruck battle.
Competition for spots is good. The day you feel comfortable in that spot is the day someone will come up and nip it.
Veteran Mitch Duncan joining Mark Blitzav, Zach Tui and Sean Higgins on light duties. And an injury scare for Collingwood's Taylor Adams after a season plagued by knee troubles. The vice-captain joining new signing Nathan Kruger in finishing today's session, despite a nasty moment on the track. Mitch Cleary, 7 News.
And things got a bit heated in the AFLW last night as reigning best and fairest winner Kiara Bowers floored Bulldogs midfielder Kirsty Lamb. It forced her off the field with concussion, with Bowers copping a 2-match suspension from the match review. Fremantle's 6-point victory leaves the Dogs winless this season. The Socceroos' hopes of an automatic World Cup qualification have taken a hit. The Aussies looked in control against Oman last night when Jamie McLaren scored, And Aaron Moy's strike put them 2-1 up in the 79th minute before a devastating penalty was conceded near full-time.
And Abdullah Fowers buries it, sends Ryan the wrong way.
The players are dead silent, but just said to them, it's a little bit disappointed with the sloppiness at times and the physical side of things.
The Socceroos now need to win their last 2 group games, starting with Japan in Sydney next month. Australian sporting legend Lauren Jackson has sensationally announced a comeback. At 40 years of age, Jackson will play for Albury-Wodonga in the semi-professional NBL 1 competition, and she's in the process of applying for an exemption to continue using cannabis oil to treat chronic pain.
That's been critical in my ability to recover and come back, and just the way that I've been training, it's definitely helped me a lot.
Jackson says she hasn't entertained a return for the Opals at September's World Cup in Sydney. Tom Brady has officially confirmed his retirement. The legendary quarterback broke the news in a lengthy social media post saying, "I've done a lot of reflecting the past week and have asked myself difficult questions. I have loved my NFL career, and now it's time to focus my time and energy on other things that require my attention." At 44, Brady spent 22 seasons in the NFL, finished with a staggering 7 Super Bowl rings with numerous records, including most touchdown passes and passing yards. He leaves the game as the greatest of all time. And surfing's GOAT, Kelly Slater, showed he's still got it. 10 days shy of his 50th birthday, Slater produced this with 4 seconds left at Pipeline.
That's what you call the greatest surfer of all time.
Oh my goodness.
That's how we do it, you know? That's what it's all about.
That 9.23 ride sent him through to the quarterfinals. Brady at 44, Slater at 50. You gave your golfing career away way too early.
Right. And Albury-Wodonga, that's great news from Lauren Jackson.
Unbelievable.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed, Tim. Jane is next with the forecast. Jane, it's cool again tomorrow.
Mitch, tomorrow's cool, it's grey and it's drizzly. Then warmth and sunshine return just in time for the weekend. The details are next. Hello again. There is one more cool day to come, but after that we'll begin the next stretch of warm and sunny weather. The air has completely changed. With no more humidity, it feels cold. We dropped to 15 overnight, only reached 19.9 today. That's our coldest day and night in a few weeks. It is only 15 out there now. As we cooled the house down overnight, there were lots of drizzly showers passing through. Generally 1 millimetre or 2, but 3 in the city, 4 in Brooklyn. They mostly cleared up during the morning, but they returned late afternoon, and all of these will continue passing through tonight. The wind is certainly making its presence felt. It feels colder than it actually is, with no humidity, no more blanket around us. When the wind really gusts, it can feel as cold as 9 degrees. Much of southern Victoria was covered in cloud all day, but it stops at the ranges and the north is generally clear. There's no more heat and no more humidity, so there's no more storms. The best we could do today was a top of 26, while Mount Baw Baw and Mount Hotham only reached 6 degrees. They're coldest since early December. This was all brought on by our first cold front in a fortnight, pushing the heat and humidity away from Victoria, bringing in some cold and dry air instead. There is a trough ready to push through tomorrow, and after that, a high is back in control. The trough will increase the drizzly activity again overnight and tomorrow morning, but it is only for these parts of the south. It keeps us on the chilly side, felt most in the wind. High teens in the south, mid-20s in the north. But there's only one more day of that to go. From Friday, the high comes in. It'll gradually warm up each day across the weekend into early next week. This warm stretch is different to the last one. Warm days, yes, but we have cool nights. The humidity doesn't return. But the position of that high means that Gippsland and the Otways and Surf Coast over there remain cooler and could have some drizzle. So drizzly there, sunny and warm for the rest. Around the nation tomorrow, Brisbane very wet, 30 to 60 millimetres of rain. Sydney, mild and showery. Adelaide, mild and dry. Perth begins day one of a 3-day hot streak. To Victoria, the south is cool and mostly cloudy. Drizzly showers passing through on a moderate to breezy southerly wind. The north of the state remains mild and sunny. Closer in, it is grey tomorrow. We've got cool temperatures and it's a cold wind. Keep the umbrella handy. Have a look at the blue here. We've got drizzly showers passing through. They'll clear up late in the afternoon, then all dry tomorrow night. So grey for much of the day with drizzly showers passing through. We'll briefly reach 20. It does dry up tomorrow night as we go into our next long dry stretch. So on Friday, mostly sunny, a top of 25. Across the weekend, 27 and 29. There is lots of sunshine and the nights don't warm up yet. As we go to next week, that's when the 30s arrive. There's only a slight risk of showers on Wednesday and Thursday. Just 20 tomorrow, cold wind and those drizzly showers, but pleasant from Friday, Mitch.
That's a bit more like summer, isn't it?
It's nice, I like it.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Jane. Now, here's what's on Sunrise tomorrow.
Thanks, Mitch. Tomorrow on Sunrise, it's Breakfast with the Stars.
Oscar winner Halle Berry is dropping in and Curtis Stone is back home and cooking live in the studio.
See you in the morning, Melbourne.
And that's the way it is this Wednesday, the 2nd of February. Thanks for your company. Good luck to the Australians Tali Gill and Dean Hewitt when they kick off the Olympic Winter Games in Beijing right here on 7 tonight. For now, from the team, good night.